Why do they do it? Why do families and communities protect the pedophile and exile the victim? Because protecting the victim has a cost. Protecting the victim costs a name. It costs status. It costs a reputation somebody spent years building. It may cost a marriage or a job. It costs a church position. It costs friendships. It costs the fantasy that our family is good and this could never happen to us. So instead, the child gets sacrificed to keep that image intact. That's the first truth people don't want to say out loud. The protection isn't accidental. It's a choice. It's a trade-off. And the child is the currency. Families protect the pedophiles because the pedophile is often connected to power inside that house. Money power, authority power, religious power, emotional power. The kind of power where everyone learns to orbit him, accommodate him, keep him calm, keep him pleased. So when the child speaks, the family doesn't hear a child. They hear a threat to the structure that's been holding everything together, no matter how toxic it is. And when someone threatens the structure is going to defend itself. That's why so many families respond the same exact way, not out of outrage, not with protection, but with management. Don't tell anyone. Let's not ruin his life. You must have misunderstood. Why are you bringing this up now? Think about what this will do to your mother. Think about your siblings. Think about the family. What about forgiveness? Notice what's missing from that list? The child. The community protects the pedophile because communities run on hierarchy and comfort, self-comfort. Communities don't want to believe a monster can also be the coach or the deacon or the respected neighbor or the guy who helps everybody. So instead of asking, what happened to that child, they ask, what if this makes me or us look bad? Then they do what communities always do when the truth threatens their comfort. They isolate the person who spoke up. They call her dramatic. They call her unstable. They call her too much. They tell her she's divisive. They say she's trying to get attention, that she's tearing the family apart, that she's exaggerating. Maybe it wasn't as bad as she thinks it was. They say she's bitter. They say she's ruining people's lives. She can't let it go. That's the lie that protects predators. The story that the victim is the danger. And here's the part that makes people angry, because it's not just families. It's not just communities. It's also the system. After years in places like Missouri and other states, the law itself maintained loopholes that allow minors 16, 17, 12, 13 to be married with parental consent. So that means if the parents decide it's okay to trade this kid over to an old man, cool. Missouri finally closed that door and moved to an 18 and older rule, effective August 28th of 2025. 2025. That's good, but the fact that it took that long tells you what we need to know. Loopholes don't exist by accident. They exist because enough adults were using them and found it necessary. And those loopholes can function like a legal shield. They can turn what should have been prosecuted into something handled privately, made right, taken care of, paperwork instead of accountability, a ring instead of a trial, a child locked into a contract instead of a child protected by the state. So when people say, why didn't she just leave? I want you to understand something. Leaving isn't just physical. Leaving means you walk away from everyone and everything that you know. Leaving means being disowned. Leaving means being labeled the problem. Leaving means losing your place in the tribe, and humans are wired to fear exile more than almost anything. So that's why the system works, because it uses exile as a weapon. And the pedophile knows it. He counts on the family's fear of scandal. He counts on the community's need for comfort. And he counts on people choosing, oh, that's none of my business, over, not on my watch. He counts on the fact that most adults would rather stay polite than get involved. So that's why they do it. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, what would I do? Here's the real question. Who are you going to protect when the moment comes? Because it will come, right? It's 1 in 3 children in the United States. It will come as a disclosure from a kid who's scared and shaking. It will come as a rumor. It will come as a pattern you don't want to admit. It will come as a he said, she said, where everyone pressures you to stay neutral. There is no neutral. Neutral is protection for the predator. If a child speaks and your first instinct is to protect the adult from consequences, you are part of the machine. If your first instinct is to ask, what will people think? You are part of the machine. If your first instinct is to ask the victim to be quiet so everyone else can be comfortable, you are part of the machine. And I'm not saying this to be dramatic. I'm saying it because this is how it keeps happening. Not once, not rarely. Over and over, generation after generation. 1 in 3 children, folks. So here's what protection actually looks like. Protection looks like believing the child first. Protection looks like reporting, not handling it privately. Protection looks like refusing to let reputation outrank a child's safety. Protection looks like refusing to attend the family dinner where everybody is pretending nothing happened and the pedophile is at the table. Protection looks like telling the truth even when it's going to cost you something, because it should cost something. What we're talking about is not a misunderstanding. It's not a mistake. It's not an affair. It's not complicated. It's predation. And a society can be measured by who it protects when the truth is inconvenient. So I'll end where I started. Why do they do it? Because it's easier to exile the victim than to dismantle the system that keeps the predators safe. But if you're listening to me, that means you're not here to choose easy. You're here to choose right.